What are y'all's opinion on Jigsaw massage therapy? You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna ask a Google machine.
All right.
It's not like Jigsaw from the Saw movies. Like, wanna play a game? I'm gonna massage you. Jigsaw massager.
Recover faster.
Better. Become your own physiotherapist. I mean, I guess that's good. That's enabling.
Our product at jigsawmassage.com.
Power tool.
Is that a saw?
That looks like an actual jigsaw.
Squatting and lunging and all that. If you loosen up all this tissue around here, it can really help alleviate some of the tendinitis side effects. So.
Nope. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Barbell Medicine YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Jordan Feigenbaum. We got a jam-packed vlog for you today. This is training footage from this past Friday. We had the whole crew in town, so Tom was here, Alan Thrall was here, Baraki was in town. We got some good stuff, and so we're going to try to space this out. We're also going to do some form checks that you guys submitted and also answer some of your questions. Wait till the end of the video, and we've got some directions on how to submit that. We really appreciate you guys tuning in and submitting your questions. It's really been great. So let's just dive on into the questions and go from there. So first question is from Luke Monavon. He says, this is a question pertaining to the Duffalo or similar type barbells. What do you think are the merits to using a Duffalo or Buffalo bar for your primary bench pressing movement greater than or equal to 12 weeks out from a powerlifting meet? The goals of using said implement being to increase any hypertrophy effect due to increased range of motion. So if you're not familiar with a Duffalo or Buffalo bar, you can use the Google machine, bring that up. Basically a specialty barbell that does usually has a bend in the center of it to increase the range of motion. So the question would be, does this actually increase muscle hypertrophy response from the bench press? And I don't think that it does to any significant degree. Basically, the range of motion increase is compromised by the decreased loading. I don't think that using that implement is actually going to cause a significant increase in hypertrophy response from bench press training compared to doing other bench press variations like paused bench, close grip bench, incline bench, board press, stuff like that. And then in the context of a power lifter, I think that not training the competition lifts for a significant period of time is not a good idea just in general. So if you wanted to use a Duffalo bar as a supplemental bench press exercise, that's fine, but I wouldn't replace your competition bench. And if you're not benching multiple times per week, then I think that's where you start from both a hypertrophy and strength performance kind of standpoint, because you need the extra volume and the extra frequency to get that volume in anyway, to drive up the hypertrophy and to also get better at the skill that you care about, which is your bench press. And I think you start there before you start adding in variations that are very different than the regular bench press. So I think that you can use it as a supplemental exercise, but it wouldn't be one of my primary supplemental movements either. When thinking about these things, you may actually have some experience and you say, well, I've actually used this thing before, it didn't feel that great on my shoulders, maybe then you select something else. If you have no experience with it, then, you plus or minus, you can try it in a developmental cycle and see if it works for you, and you can kind of keep that in your toolkit. But it seems unlikely to me that it has a high value as a primary supplemental lift for the bench press or the press. I just view it as a low specificity developmental kind of accessory lift. I probably wouldn't spend too much time actually using it. All right, second question is from Woojin O. I wanted to ask you a question that's been on my mind. That's good, all right. It's been touted that upper body pushing needs to be balanced out with upper body pulling to keep the shoulders healthy and pain-free. Do you believe this to be true? What is your experience with shoulder pain, and how much of an emphasis do you place on pulling movements, ergo pull-ups and rows, in your programming, considering their lack of specificity for powerlifting but supposed necessity for shoulder health? Okay, there's a lot of questions in there, so let's see if we can do this briefly. And context is very important. So this thing that's been put out there in the training world, that there's a certain ratio of pulling movements to pushing movements, I find that to be incredibly lazy and incredibly wrong all at the same time. And that's sometimes that happens, and this is one example of that. So there's no data showing that, hey, if you just do this amount of pulling, then you're going to have decreased pain reports or decreased injuries, however you want to define injuries, whether that's missing game time, missing competitions, or having to go see a healthcare professional. There's no evidence suggesting that to be true at all. Okay, in fact, if you look at the best sort of data we have on injury prevention or improving pain, it's going to be general strength and conditioning, and then gradual increase in fatigue over time, fatigue management, so that you're not constantly rating RPEs very, very high. Yes, that's actually in the literature. So we have some evidence and we have some like knowledge base to build off of. And so from a general like injury or pain prevention sort of standpoint, I would say that getting stronger over time is very, very useful, and also gradually working up an athlete's or a lifter's training volume and their tolerance for training. That's going to be very important, and then managing the intensity such that they're not constantly working at that sort of that limit. That tends to be not a good idea. And in fact, most of the pain science that we have currently related to athletic injury or pain from an athletic endeavor suggests that an acute increase in fatigue layered that's sudden and rapid tends to cause people to report pain. Now, whether or not that's an injury, that's more of a philosophical question, because just because there's a imaging, like an X-ray or CT or an MRI that shows, hey, this thing's injured, that doesn't necessarily mean you have pain. And just because you don't have that on imaging doesn't mean you don't have pain. So that's another question that we'll talk about later. But I think the two things that you can do to really prevent pain and prevent missing game time or competitions or prevent missing training is to gradually work the training load up over time. And really make sure that the programming is on point. So this pulling to pushing ratio, that's complete BS. All muscles pull, by the way. There are no pushing muscles. So all muscles, try to approximate or bring closer their distal attachment to their proximal attachment. You can do pushing movements like pressing and benching through a series of bony levers that we call your skeleton. All right, all these muscles pull. All right.
Sorry, I can only search by topic for movies.
Hey, Siri, can you shut the f*** up? So anyway, we have all these muscles pull, none of them push. Should you have a pull to push ratio? No, I don't think that's very smart. I think that training lifts, training movements, and training lots of muscle mass ends up being the best thing we can do from a strength and conditioning programming standpoint in order to prevent injury or pain. I would not put any stock in push to pull ratios. In fact, the people who say that, I think that if you I think that if you polled 1,000 of people who say push to pull ratio is important, that they'd have a higher incidence of shoulder pain than those who don't say that. Why? Because they've sought out experts and gurus and care based presumably upon themselves having shoulder pain, and so they probably tell you this thing. And I think that if you follow that ratio, that you probably have a higher instance of shoulder pain. It's just you've sought out some expert who's told you this thing and you bought into it, but no evidence to support it. Doesn't necessarily work in practice unless it's part of a good strength and conditioning program. But nearly all of my lifters and Baraki's lifters probably push way more than they pull as far as benching and pressing compared to rows. And I think that training generally has to be fairly specific in order to show improvement. So I wouldn't spend a lot of time doing a bunch of extra pulls unless it was sport specific or really contributed to development. And I don't think that this push-pull ratio really has any merit at all. All right, so now that we finished questions, let's head into the lifting videos. First up is Catherine. We're gonna take a look at her squat and then her deadlift. So Catherine here looks like she's squatting in tennis shoes. So first thing, I would just get a lifting shoe. It's gonna make your squat a whole lot more stable. The bar looks to be in the low bar position, but on the way down you look to be a little too vertical. So I would have you start by pushing your hips back first and bending over at the hip rather than trying to go straight down. The depth on that one was good. I can't see what your knees are doing. But right here, it just looks like you're too vertical, so I would initiate the downward movement by pushing your hips back first as your knees bend. And I think a lifting shoe, again, I see your feet moving around quite a bit. I think a lifting shoe is going to be helpful. So if we just watch this one more time, right, walked it out. Yeah, lifting shoes would be super helpful. So, and it looks like you're looking down fine. I would try to make sure that's 3 to 4 feet in front of you, probably base of the wall. It looks like there's a mirror right in front of you. And I would actually, yeah, for sure, I would bend over a little more at the top as your knees go forward and out. So the hips and the knees are supposed to break at the same time. And I think this is just a squat that needs a little more practice. So lead with the hips go back as your knees bend, and just go an inch below parallel. No reason to go all the way down, ass to grass, as they say. There's no real benefit there as far as I can tell from a general strength conditioning standpoint. All right, that's going to trigger people on the internet. So let's just talk about it real quick. Why would you squat, quote unquote, ass to grass? I think, people say it looks more aesthetic. It does have a higher range of motion, but there's less weight on the bar, so motor unit recruitment may be compromised to an extent compared to another squat where there's similar range of motion. And motor unit recruitment and volume combined typically are the mechanisms behind hypertrophy and strength improvement. So I would not sacrifice necessarily one or over the other, range of motion versus intensity, weight on the bar. So I don't see a good argument for going, ass to grass. All right, so here's Catherine's deadlift. See the setup. Now watch the logo on the plates. She pushes her knees to it. Yeah, that looks okay. It looks like you're looking down, like right in front of you, so I would actually make you look out a little further than this. The other thing is, I think you should probably do all of your sets with your grip staying on the bar. Don't let go of the bar in between reps. I don't see a point of doing that just yet in your training. So this looks like 60 kilos. I think you can do more. Now, that rep and the rep right before it, it looked like you were behind the barbell. Much frustration. Okay, we'll rewatch this video. So the second and third rep are what we're really going to focus on here. This first rep, again, the plates don't move. You can see that her hips are a little low, so I would actually raise your hips up about an inch from there. Now, the second and third rep are a little worse from as far as hips go. So those are very low, and if your hips stay low and the weight's light enough for you to use your body's weight to lever the bar off the floor, you'll actually end up rounding your back a little bit. And so, yeah, that happened there, and that's why you felt like it was really a tough struggle to finish that rep. So I would have you raise your hips up about 2 or 3 inches. The bar should be directly over the middle of the foot, so about an inch in front of you, inch in front of your shins if you're standing vertically, and that's where the barbell should be. Your shoulders will be in front of the bar. They will not be behind the bar. So from the side, your butt should be a little higher, shoulders in front of the bar, and then just drag the bar straight up your legs. That would be the idea. Stand up straight, perfect deadlift. All right, so this is a video from John Christopher. He's doing 405 for a double. And it's funny because his email was like, I just felt like doing a double. So I did a double. Pretty good walkout. Nice and compact. Yeah, from this angle, looks like maybe a little vertical. Maybe. Yeah, that second one was more vertical. Notice the bar speed slowing down on the way up. That was more of just going down a little too vertical. And then the hip drive was compromised a little bit. That being said, if this is your style, you got to work within it, but I would probably have you bend over a little bit more at the hip. I can't see your back to make sure that it's in extension, but yeah, that looks okay there. So we're just rewatching the video. Elbows are nice and silent. Look at the feet. Looks okay. From this angle, that's okay. Yeah, I don't know necessarily why we're doing doubles, but hey, I actually don't like doubles, to be honest. They're okay, but I don't love them, mainly because I think that they're not great for developing strength. I think they're more of a test. So I don't like to spend a lot of time training doubles. They might be a week before a meet and that's it, or a week at the end of like a specialization or sports form type block. And then I go back to volume. I mean, a lot of lifters, I'll have them run 4s all the way into a meet, or even 5s. So I don't find much use from doubles, which I know is heretical, but here we are on the internet just saying things. All right, and this video is from Ben Metcalf. So he's squatting 122.5 kilos. This is the perfect angle, just as an aside. If you were ever wondering, how should I film my squats? This is it. Nice contrast between his shorts and the background. So that rep's high, that's above parallel. The other thing I'd have you do, I'd make sure that you stop before you descend each one. Take a breath, stop. Your back is overextended, it looks like, so I would actually have you crunch down, like try to do a mini crunch prior to descending. And yeah, these are all high. So I would, if I were there in person, we'll watch this again as I talk. If I were there in person, I would have you take weight off the bar to make sure that you can go lower. And how you're going to do that is by pushing the knees out a little bit harder. and maybe bending over a little bit more, but knees out, and yeah, and they get forward. They're like sliding forward the whole time, so I would actually get your knees further forward at the start. That one was okay, still high though, so I would get your knees forward and out at the start, crunch down with your abs, and go about an inch lower on each rep. Yeah, maybe 2 inches on that one. So for your next session, if this was 122.5 kilos, I probably would do 115. Yeah, something like that, rule of thumb. All right, some training from us. So this is me now. I'm pulling in Ultra Boosts. Yeah, because I locked myself. Well, the electric went out, and then I couldn't get in my garage. So here we are. This is 235, so 518 from a deficit plus Ultra Boosts. No belt because it's in my car, which is stuck in my garage, and I'm doing these for 8s. Watch the plates. Yeah, they go straight up, so it's in the correct position. My kyphosis is present. Low back looks good. You notice there's not a re-extension of my lumbar spine at the top, so that can kind of clue you in. Is this thoracic round here? Is this lumbar spine type stuff? Hey, cameo from Brooke Ents. There you go. Austin, not impressed. I think he's not impressed with me. Impressed with her? Sure. Impressed with me? No. So this is 235 again. Raw with Ultra Boosts. Let's see. So we'll just watch the Alico logo here. Yep, doesn't move, so that's good. Extension, good. Yeah, I'm happy with these. Yeah, you can see a little flick there, so I kind of dropped my hips a little bit on that one. That one not so much, so straight up. That one was a little forward, just a hair, but I wouldn't actually cue anything about it because these are pretty good. Yeah, pulling sets of 8, just out there. So here's Austin doing pause deadlifts. Now, you can see the back move a little bit right at the start of the lift. So you might yell at him, but the bar's forward. All right, so the bar's forward. It's just light for him, so he can do that. But the only way that you can lift a weight that's forward of the midfoot without raising your hips is by rounding the back a little bit. So I should have, instead of just running the camera, I should have I told him to raise his hips just a little bit. But this is, let's see, 555, I think. Yeah, that's real good. Now, this is Alan doing stiff-legged deadlifts with a hook grip plus beard. Notice the bar actually starts off his legs. Yeah. I mean, most of the time when I have people do stiff-leggeds, I either have them stand on a mat or probably, I would actually have them probably a little higher hipped. But these do serve the purpose. It's not a real, it's close to his regular deadlift, but different enough to be supplemental. And you notice his back is actually much more horizontal. We don't have a video of his regular deadlift, but those are kind of the telltale signs of a stiff-legged deadlift. Austin messing around with the football bar. He's been benching with that again. This is very similar to a close grip bench as far as bar path because it touches lower. The thing with the football bar, if you're wearing a belt like Austin is right there, and I think his back just was a little tight from traveling. You see Tom in the background. He's getting the shot. But the thing is, if you're doing the football bar and you're wearing a belt, you got to worry about hitting the belt with the bar. That looks like 330, 340. Yeah, there's a 5-pound plate on the inside. Pretty good. This is a very unimpressive 247-pound close grip incline bench press. I'm supposed to do 12s. Will I do 12? It's 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey, I can count in post. 7, 8. Apparently I'm doing 8s. Oh yeah, that's right. It's my second exercise. My bad. So I did 8s. Sorry, I forgot. So this is real time. That was 3. I did 3 sets of 8 there, and now I finished up with 12s here on Pendlay rows. This is 150 kilos, 330. And again, I said last time that when I did Pendlay rows that I actually like doing these with some English, and this is how I do Pendlay rows with Ultra Boosts. But yeah, just throwing around 330. So here we go. Plus, it's very, very warm in the gym. Sorry for all the people who didn't want to see me take my shirt off, but this is real. This is real life. As long as the bar is touching you, I'm cool with it. Yeah. All right. So that wraps up another training vlog. We did some question and answers. We reviewed some of your guys' form checks. Now, look, we're getting a lot of form checks, but you guys are not reading the description of how to submit these things. So you really do have to take them from the side. Take them from the dead side. Your entire body and barbell should be in the frame. The whole thing. Like, it can't be cut off. Please also send us the weights. Please also send it in a high enough resolution where we can use it. And we'll do it. We'll check your technique. I see a lot of people sending in squats. You guys all got great bench presses. Come on. Let's get some love on the bench press. Also send your questions to barbellaudio@gmail.com. Link in description below. Check it out. And we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for tuning in. See you guys next time.